Hey guys, Mike here. So today's cult classic review is 1975's The Rocky Horror Picture Show, starring Tim Curry as Dr. Frank-N-Furter. In The Rocky Horror Picture Show, a newly engaged couple have a breakdown in the middle of nowhere and seek shelter in the isolated mansion owned by Dr. Frank-N-Furter. And so we have The Rocky Horror Picture Show. So guys, this is a movie in this series before watching and reviewing it today. I had not seen it before, and for kind of all my life, like Grease, I didn't know the songs, I didn't know the dance moves, so any kind of disco, social gathering, or anything where you need to know these songs or the dance moves, I'd just be there like, well, I don't know them. And I would always be thinking, am I missing out? Do I need to know these? Do I really want to kind of get involved in these dance or songs? So I was eager to see what all the fuss was about with the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So, what did I think of the Rocky Horror Picture Show? Well, it goes without saying that Tim Curry's Dr. Frank-N-Furter is a very unique character. It's kind of hard to get an angle on where he's coming from, what he's going to do next, but nonetheless, he just really stands out and is a very unique character. As for Brad and Janet, though, they're just really not interesting characters, and for pretty much the longest time, they don't really do anything. And really, the only reason that these characters are in this story is so they can be a vessel for the audience to put themselves within this story. It's kind of like Sam Worthington's character in Avatar. The guy has no discernible personality, but is only there for the audience to kind of put themselves in the middle to see this whole new world with brand new eyes and experience what he's experiencing. And for pretty much most of the film, that's the only kind of purpose that Brad and Janet really seem to serve. Because beyond that, they really have nothing else to them, except for the fact that they're to be engaged and that they love each other. I mean, the thing I think that the Rocky Horror Picture Show is about, it's about exploring your sexuality, being more free with yourself, which is what Dr. Frank-N-Furter tries to get out of these two. Because at the start, the two of them are so stiff and rigid with what they believe in, and then as the story progresses, through hypnotism or pure persuasion or whatever it is he does to them, they start to be a bit more free with how they do things. They start to be a bit more expressive. They start to just really view their whole lives in a whole different way. Which, besides the actual blatant adultery in which they're taking part in, it is definitely a positive message. Basically, just be more free, be more of yourself, and that's definitely a positive message. Now, as for the actual music though, because obviously the Rocky Horror Picture Show is a musical, and a lot of the storytelling is done through music. Now, before watching this one, I knew two songs. I knew Sweet Transvestite, and I knew The Time Warp, which obviously is the big song from this one, and the one that has the dance moves, and everyone kind of knows all the lyrics to. And this was the one I was there thinking, this is the one that in any kind of social gathering, it usually gets played. And I'd be there like, well, I don't know it. And watching it now, it is definitely a very catchy song, and the dance steps are obviously easy to learn, which is probably the reason why so many people do it. But listening to it, and pretty much all of the other songs in the movie, I didn't really think I was missing much. Though the songs are obviously well written, they are catchy, and they work really well for this movie, none of them really drew me in. I can't say that after I watched this one I wanted to listen to this soundtrack again or learn all the words, or that really any of this music really drew me into the story and made me want to find out more about this world. Not to say that any of them were bad, it's just, I just wasn't really sucked in with this movie as a whole. I didn't know whether it was the fact that it didn't have a solid story structure, or it was just a bit too weird, or pretty much a combination of the two. Just, I wasn't fully invested within this narrative. Nothing about the Rocky Horror Picture Show, for me, screamed great, interesting movie. Pretty much the best part is when Meatloaf shows up, and he's not really in the movie for all that long, because he's pretty much just unceremoniously killed off for reasons, I guess. Pretty much the reason I think he was killed is because he was stealing the Doctor's spotlight, which, you know, he can't have. Frank-N-Furter's always got to be the center of attention. He's got to be the biggest character in the room. And for anyone else to try and think that they are better than him or more crazy or more expressive than he is, no, 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 you can't do that. Which is definitely a interesting insight to the character. But still, nonetheless, I wish we just had more Meatloaf, because everything's better with more Meatloaf. And something else quite interesting as well. From this movie, up until Tenacious D, The Pick of Destiny, Meatloaf hadn't sang in a movie. He'd been in quite a lot of movies, but apparently he'd never actually sang in one since doing the Rocky Horror Picture Show up until Tenacious D, The Pick of Destiny, which is quite interesting. But really, I remember Meatloaf a lot better for The Pick of Destiny than I do Rocky Horror Picture Show. Because even though Meatloaf's character does kind of push the story along a little bit, I feel like he has a lot more significance in The Pick of Destiny than he does in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. But that's just my opinion. So guys, would I consider the Rocky Horror Picture Show a personal cult classic, and would recommend that you guys should see it? It is very easy to see why this movie has become a cult classic. Pretty much from the characters, to the story, to the setting, to the songs, the costumes, everything about this one just screams cult classic movie. And it's easy to see why so many people love this movie. It's just unfortunately, I am not one of them. I wouldn't consider this movie a personal cult classic, and honestly, I just don't think I enjoyed it all that much. I've seen much better musicals that drew me in a lot quicker and held my attention a lot longer than the Rocky Horror Picture Show. But as for whether or not you guys should see it, I would say that this is one that you do kind of need to check out. It is pretty much a moment in cinematic history that quite a few people do need to see. But as for a solid recommendation as to whether I think this movie's good or not, I wouldn't recommend it. Not because I think this movie's terrible, it's just I didn't really think it was all that great either. So I'd say watch it to see what all the fuss is about, but I just wouldn't give it an actual solid recommendation. Okay guys, that's my cult classic review of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Whatever you think, drop it in the comments below. Until next time, I've been Michael. See ya!